India, as we call Bharat, is hosting the G20 summit in New Delhi on the 9th and 10th September. And we have the various heads of the states who are arriving in Delhi on the 7th and the 8th. So we would like you to know more about the G20 or the Group of 20. G20, the group, is an intergovernmental forum. It comprises 19 countries and the European Union. It works to address the major issues related to the global economy, such as the international financial stability, about climate change mitigation, and sustainable development. G20 is composed of the world's largest economies and the finance ministries, including both the industrialized countries and the developing countries. It accounts for around 80% of the gross world product, 75% of the international trade, two-thirds of the global population, and 60% of the world's land area. The G20 was founded in the year 1999 in response to several world economic crises. Since 2008, it has convened at least once a year with summits involving each member's head of the government or state or the finance minister or foreign minister or any other high-ranking official. The European Union is represented by the European Commission and the European Central Bank. In its 2009 summit, the G20 declared itself the primary venue for international economic and financial cooperation. The group's stature has risen during the subsequent decade and is recognized by analysts as exercising considerable global influence. It is also criticized for its limited membership, lack of enforcement powers, and for the alleged undermining of existing international institutions. The summits are often met with protests, particularly by the anti-globalization groups. We'd like you to share the history of G20. The G20 is the latest in the series of post-World War II initiatives, which are aimed at the international coordination of economic policy, which includes institutions such as the Bretton Woods twins, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, and what is now the World Trade Organization. The G20 was foreshadowed at the Cologne summit of the G7 in June 9, 1999, and formally established at the G7 Finance Ministers meeting on 26 September 1999, with an inaugural meeting on 15 to 16 December 1999 in Berlin. The then Canadian Finance Minister Paul Martin was chosen as the first chairman, and German Finance Minister Hans Eichel hosted the inaugural meeting. The report by Colin Bradford and Jonas F. Lynn of the Brookings Institution asserted the group was founded primarily at the initiative of Eichel, the concurrent chair of the G7. However, Bradford later described the then Finance Minister of Canada and the future Prime Minister of Canada, Paul Martin, as a crucial architect at the formation of the G20 at the finance minister level, and as the one who later proposed that the G20 countries move to leader-level summits. Canadian academic and journalistic sources also identified the G20 as a project initiated by Martin and his American counterpart, the then Treasury Secretary Larry Summers. All acknowledge, however, that Germany and the United States played a key role in bringing the vision into reality. Martin and Summers conceived of the G20 in response to the series of massive debt crises that had spread across emerging markets in the late 1990s, beginning with the Mexican peso crisis and followed by the 1997 Asian financial crisis. Then the 1998 Russian financial crisis and eventually impacting the United States, most prominently in the form of collapse of the prominent hedge fund long-term capital management in the autumn of 1998. It illustrated to them that in a rapidly globalizing world, the G7, G8, and the Bretton Woods system would be unable to provide financial stability, and they conceived of a new, broader, permanent group of major world economies that would give a voice and responsibilities in providing same. The G20 membership was decided by Eichel's deputy Carlo Koch-Wesser and Summers' deputy Timothy Geithner. According to the political economist Robert Wade, quote, Geithner and Koch-Wesser went down the list of countries saying Canada in, Portugal out, South Africa in, Nigeria and Egypt out, and so on. They sent the list to the other G7 finance ministers, and the invitations to the first meeting went out, unquote. We'd like to tell you about the members. As of 2023, there are 20 members in the group: Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, South Korea, Japan, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Turkey, and the United Kingdom, the United States, and of course the European Union. The guest invitees include Spain, the United Nations, the World Bank, the African Union, and the Asian countries. We would like to tell you about the role of the Asian countries. A 2011 report released by the Asian Development Bank predicted that large Asian economies such as China and India would play a major important role in the global economic governance in the future. The report claimed the rise of emerging market economies heralded a new world order in which the G20 would become the global economic steering committee. Now we would like to tell about India. India assumed G20 presidency on December 1st, 2022 in a historic movement from Indonesia. We would like to tell you that how the G20 works. The G20 presidency steers the G20 agenda for 1 year and hosts the summit. The G20 consists of two parallel tracks, the finance track and the Sherpa track. The finance ministers and the central bank governors lead the finance track, while the Sherpas lead the Sherpa track after finance track. Indian Sherpa has been the responsibility is being held by Shri Amitabh Kent, an IS officer. Further, the G20 process from the Sherpa side is coordinated by the Sherpas of member countries, who are the personal emissaries of the leaders. Finance track is led by finance ministers and central bank governors of the member countries. Within the two tracks, there are thematically oriented working groups in which representatives from the relevant ministries of the members as well as from the invited countries and various international organizations participate. The finance track is mainly led by the Ministry of Finance. These working groups meet regularly throughout the term of each presidency. The Sherpas oversees negotiations over the course of the year, discussing agenda items for the summit and coordinating the substantive work of the G20. In addition, there are engagement groups which bring together civil societies, parliamentarians, think tanks, women, youth, labor, businesses, and researchers of G20 countries. The group does not have a permanent secretariat. The presidency is supported by the Troika, the previous, the current, and the incoming presidency. During India's presidency, the Troika comprises of Indonesia, which held the presidency in the year 2022, India, of course, which is holding the current presidency in 2023, and the subsequent presidency will be given to Brazil, 2024. We bring you the year of the summit, which were held earlier. So in 2009, we had the summit, the London summit. It focused on stability, growth, and jobs. 2010 summit was held in Canada from June 26th to 27th. We had the G20 summit in Seoul, Republic of Korea, from November 11 to 12, 2010. In 2011, we had the G20 summit in Cannes, France, from November 3rd to 4th. In 2012, we had the G20 summit at Mexico from June 18 to 19. In 2013, we had the G20 summit at St. Petersburg, Russia, from September 5th to September 6th. We had in 2014 the G20 summit in Brisbane, Australia, from November 15 to 16. In 2015, we had the summit at Turkey from November 15 to 16. The 2016 summit took place in China from September 4 to 5th. The 2017 summit took place in Hamburg, Germany, from July 7 to 8. The 2018 summit took place in Buenos Aires, Argentina, from November 30th to 1st of December. We had the 2019 summit in Osaka, Japan, on June 28 to 29. 2020, we had G20 summit in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, which was held on November 21st and 22nd. The 2021 summit was held in Rome, Italy, on October 30th and 31st. The 2022 summit was held in Bali, Indonesia, on November 15 to 16. India is having a lot of culture and heritage, which they are trying to exhibit at the G20. So we have Explore India. It's about Incredible India. It's about the culture and heritage. Then we are going to talk about Bharat, the mother of democracy. We are going to talk about our election process. We are going to talk about Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, then about India's achievements. We have the Digital India, and then it's going to be Culture Corridor, and then we also have a host of